Hi, everyone, and welcome to the special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show. And I'm with our guest, best-selling author, Grace Lynx Jenkins of Sight. Grace, the topic today, we're going to really discuss your book and one of the themes in the book. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so something that I've seen pop up, and this is not just in Sight, but in other works that I've worked on, is the importance of grandparents. Typically, in my book, you will have an older individual who could be the grandparent of the protagonist or is the grandparent of the protagonist. And they bring in a lot of love and wisdom and kindness to the protagonists and help to guide the main character throughout their journey. They're basically a teacher of some sort. And to me, especially, I grew up in a very close knit family. So I was constantly interacting with my grandparents. My Nana and my Pop lived across the yard from my parents, and my Nana still lives across the yard from her parents. She is wonderful. She's so sweet and so loving, and she always took care of me and my siblings. And then there were my grandparents in Florida. My granddad, he is currently in South Florida at the moment, but I remember as a little girl, I would walk through the woods with him and we would play together. He would read to me, my grandmother would read to me. And I always found that connection to be very, very special. And I tend to see that a lot when I'm talking about my books. Like in Sight, Craig, Noah's old boss, he is about the age where he could be Noah's grandfather. And you have this disgruntled old man who still has a soft spot for Noah, and he takes care of Noah in his own way, mainly by making sure that Noah is okay in his own special way, and by also guiding him, working with him as a mentor in the field.
See, Grace, I feel that we're not respecting grandparents as much as maybe we were 20 years ago. And a lot of younger adults are turning away from their grandparent. When they have kids turning away with grandparents. Why do we see this happening? If you're saying the importance of grandparents, you're looking at your Christianity, you look at how important grandparents are, and how a lot of people are turning their back on their parents so they could be grandparents.
Well, the thing is, to be a good grandparent, you also need to be a good parent. And commonly, I know, especially with people in my generation, families are not always perfect. And sometimes you can have very dysfunctional families. And if you have a dysfunctional family, what may tend to happen is that the child will not think that they can get the support that they need from the parents, or the parents maybe did not raise the child in a very specific way, which will contribute to the child not really being all that close with their parents and not really wanting to contact them at all. So it really does come back to the idea of mutual respect. Like, obviously, kids should respect their parents. It says so in the Bible, honor your father and mother. But it also says, fathers, don't provoke your children to wrath. And I do feel like the balance there is making sure that you discipline the child correctly, that you show them by example. You don't just say, okay, do what I say, but not as I do. You have to constantly be a proper social model for your child so that they know how to act as an adult. Now, of course, when you hit a certain age as a child, you do have your own sense of personal responsibility, but it is super, super important, especially for little children, to learn from their parents and even from their grandparents, because their grandparents bring all of this wisdom from already having been parents. And you can also have the connection where grandparents might be able to be a little bit more playful with their grandchildren in some aspects. I know with me, that was a huge thing, was that my grandparents were always a little bit more playful. You know the adage about grandparents spoiling their grandchildren. That's kind of what they're supposed to do.
So what you're saying is it's because of dysfunctional family, certain specific things, but I'm seeing more and more less respect towards grandparents and their rights. But it could be because of the dysfunctionalists. But you see the importance of them in writing, and you don't see all the books writing about grandparents a lot.
Yeah, it's very strange to me because grandparents have always been such an important aspect of my life. So for me, writing about that is incredibly important. Let's show what it's like to have a grandparent who is helping to take care of their grandchild. I do think that we tend to bash the older generations a little bit for some of the collective decisions that they may have made as a group, but you do have to remember that individuals are not groups. So your own grandparent, that's an individual. That is a person who can show you love, show you kindness, and guide you. So I
Mm.
do also think it's part of just that group polarization of viewing people around grandparent age in this weird stereotypical manner, when in reality it's made up of different individuals, some good, some not so great.
Like everybody else
Yeah.
in so many ways. And but are you always going to look at that as writing about all different generations of people in your writing, even though going into your next series will be a little different, right? Or could it still be?
Yeah, honestly, I do think that my books will continue to have that connection between different generations because it's not just relating to modern day, it also pertains to pretty much every culture around the world, every aspect. Family is one of the central things that you see pop up time and again in culture, and that's because family is super, super important. So for me, yes, I am going to continue the themes of family. In fact, my series is going to be focused on family even more so, and the relationship between a tight knit family and exploring their problems that they have, even exploring a little bit of found family. Because sometimes you're so close with your friends, they can become your family in a sense.
And I see Gen Z's doing that more,
Yeah.
seeing the value of friends more.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Especially if you've been through the same thing together, um, it can be a whole lot easier to connect with somebody who has been through the same thing as you than, say, somebody who hasn't been through it or doesn't quite understand. It's like in older generations, for example, they didn't really have to worry as much about AI or the more advanced versions of technology that we had, with the iPhones and the screen epidemic. But people in Gen Z, they grew up immersed inside of that, which I think that people in Gen Z who have grown up together immersed in that, they kind of share this culture in a sense where they're able to better relate to each other and discuss those topics moving forward.
Right. And that's a good point. And I think Gen X are the ones, the first to grow up in that generation that started the process. They went from one generation to another in that process to figure to that point. So we're the last generation to do. So it's an interesting to look at each generation in certain aspects. But I feel that what they have, what the pandemic is another thing
Oh, yeah.
that they had to go through. And it's just going to be interesting to look at things. So if you're looking for a Gen Z writer who is going to relate to all the different generations, bring Christianity into it, and
Mhm.
also fantasy, you got to go to gracelynxjenkins.com to purchase your book, get an autographed signed copy. I appreciate Grace. It was such a great conversation. And what do you want to tell the people who've read your book so far? Give it to your fans so far.
First of all, if you've been enjoying the book, thank you so much for purchasing it, regardless of even if you've ever picked it up or not. That means the world to me that you even considered buying it. If you do like what you see, I would ask if you could please leave me a review. Tell me what you think. I'm really interested. I would also like to shout out my grandparents, my Nana and my granddad. Y'all mean the world to me. I love you so, so much. And y'all have been a big inspiration to me to write.
See, there you go. Grace's passion is writing. So check out her book and please like and subscribe on all our social media channels, gracelynxjenkins.com. Check her out there and appreciate you coming by.
Thank you.
That was the Neil